Bay is mentioned here, and if you know anything about that place, you know how crazy I am about the Dark Verse series, which is also by the same author, RuNyx. I'm gonna do a separate video on those books. So, remember when I said that? Well, it's time for us to talk about that right in this video. Today we'll be talking about the Dark Verse series by RuNyx, giving you a recap of each book, as well as my honest opinion and whether I would recommend it or not. The first book in the series is The Predator. First off, I love this book down bad. Let me just give you a recap on how this book starts off the series. You gotta picture it. Our main female character has codes that she's coded for her special website or something that she's done for school. The codes come up missing. She is the daughter of a mafia boss. She thinks that it's someone from the rivalry mafia family in Tenebrae that could have taken her codes. So she knows they're hosting a party, and she sneaks into enemy territory to try to threaten the person that she thinks stole the code. Talk about bravery. But not before she gets caught by the person that she thinks stole her code. No problem. She's like, hey, I know you have my codes. You better give me my codes right now, or I'm gonna set it off. And he realizes who she is because she comes in there disguised up with a wig and everything. And he's just like, go home. Like, girl, go home. So she's freaking out. She did all that only to find that she can't find her codes. And she doesn't know who has the codes. Not only if she doesn't find these codes, it could end up in the wrong hands, but then she has to go and tell her dad that the codes are missing. It's a couple days after, and Tristan and Dante, the son of the mafia family that they have rivals with, they reach out to her and say, hey, we would like to actually meet up with you and talk to you. But they do it in a unique way that involves her ex. They meet up with her and they're like, hey, you know, we don't know if your codes that are missing has anything to do with what's going on with Tristan, because there's been some weird things that are happening to him as well. He's been framed for a couple of things, and we think that the missing codes could be tied to this. Do you want to work together? She's like, should I work with these guys? I don't know if I should. You know, this could start a war, and I'm not too sure if Tristan really is lying about having the codes. He could be lying and having the codes. So Dante's like, wait 1 minute. I got a phone call I gotta answer. Okay. Walks off, leaves the two of them together. Only for Tristan to ruin the whole moment. I'm talking the banter these two have is off the charts because of that little interaction. When Dante comes back from his phone call and he's like, yeah, okay, all right, cool, set it up. So what do you say, Morana? Do you want to work with us? Our girl says no. They're like, oh my gosh, what did you do, Tristan? So Dante's like, Tristan, what did you do? And she walks off. She's resigned to the fact that she's gonna have to tell her dad about the missing codes until Tristan kind of sneaks onto her property and convinces her, with Dante in his ear, convinces her to work with them to try to find the codes in order for them to solve who has them. Because right now the main suspect is Tristan himself. And our girl goes, okay, I'll work with you guys on one condition. Tristan's like, okay, what's the condition? And she's like, I don't work with you. I'm only working with Dante. Sets our boy off. And he's like, you know what? That's fine. I don't care. Whatever. You don't have to worry about me. She meets up with Dante in an effort for them to meet up, exchange information, and see how they can go forward. But it just so happens that our girl gets unceremoniously welcomed in the wrong way. she gets drugged. If it wasn't for Dante, Amara, and Tristan, our girl would have been in a tougher spot. She wakes up to find that she's in her car, Amara's driving her car, and someone's following them. And she's like, who's in the back? Who's following us? And that's when she finds out, hey, it's actually Tristan. He's following us, so that way I can drop you in your car off and I can ride back with him to the club. Morana's like, hey, I'm fine to go. It's okay. You can stop right here. I don't want my dad to see you guys. And Amara's like, you sure? She's like, yeah, I'll be fine. Don't worry. I'm feeling great. But as she goes and continues to go back home, someone different is following her. A different SUV is following her. But then all of a sudden she sees a motorcycle ride up, and it's none other than Tristan. Tristan pops up to save her. Even though our girl said, I don't want to work with you. He makes it a point to tell her, like, I'm not going to save you again. This is the last time I'm going to save you again. She's like, again? What is he talking about? He's never saved me before. The story is filled with a lot of banter, a lot of hate, angst, enemies to lovers. It's a slow burn. Very, very good story to start off in. I will say that there is a plot twist at the end of this first book. The plot was twisted so much. Ending of it leaves on such a cliffhanger, and it's so good. The ending of The Predator leads us into The Reaper. The Reaper starts off where The Predator left off. So by the end of The Predator, they are acknowledging that, okay, they do have feelings for each other, and they're acknowledging that they have history with each other. They have some undeniable chemistry, and they are just tied to each other because of their history. He's not going anywhere without her, and he's made that abundantly clear. They have no choice but to bring Morana to Trenebray, which is Dante and his family's territory. Except when they get there, they disarm her of all of her hidden weapons that she had on her. But of course, Tristan has the pleasure of being the one to frisk her, because he's not letting no other man touch her. As we get deeper into the Reaper, we start seeing why Tristan is getting framed for some of the things that are happening. And we start getting clues about the missing girls that went missing about 18 to 20 years ago. One of them being Tristan's sister. Now, as far as we know, someone is pulling the strings in trying to get Tristan and Morana to work together and giving them clues. There's someone in the shadows. I would say that there's actually two people in the shadows working together to get these two to come together and work together and acknowledge their feelings. A lot happens in this book, a lot of suspense, and you will not believe who the Reaper ends up being. I freaking loved these stories. The Predator and the Reaper tells the stories of Tristan and Morana and their love story. It isn't complete. Their story doesn't get complete until The Syndicator, which is the last book. I loved it. I will say to check your trigger warnings, as I would say with all the books. Make sure you check your trigger warnings, because it does mention abuse. It does have instances of parental abuse. It does also mention ex-trafficking. So make sure you check your trigger warnings. This is a dark romance series. And we're gonna go ahead and go into the third book. The third book is The Emperor. And I love this book. This is my favorite. This is my favorite out of all of the books. This is my favorite because we get the story of my man Dante, the Wall Maroni, and Amara. Now, we get an introduction to them in The Predator, and we see them also being mentioned in The Reaper. This book starts off with showing their history and how they've known each other since they were young. Dante's older than Morana, so when she was about 11, 12 years old, he was already a teenager, like 15 years old. She's always had a crush on him, always watching him from afar with doe eyes, and just, the girl was obsessed. She didn't stand a chance at all always following him, always asking her best friend Vin about him because Vin would train with him. She just wanted to be noticed by him. He did have a girlfriend. She ends up witnessing an event with that girlfriend that takes place, and it causes her to distance herself away from him, and he notices. He's like, whoa, wait a minute. You have a crush on me. Like, you're always following me. You're always seeking me out. And now you're not? That's suspicious. So he starts asking around like, hey, why did I do something? She's being distant. I noticed that she's not being around. And she's like, hey, I'm not your keeper, my guy. You need to go ahead and get this out of your head that I need to always be following you. Like, everything's cool. Everything's copacetic. It's fine. But everything was not cool and copacetic, because she overhears a conversation involving his dad and some other associates that will later have her paying the consequences of hearing that conversation. The night of a party that the Maronis are throwing, and her and Ben are dressed to the nines. So they're coming back from running a few errands. They're in a parking lot and they're just talking and joking and laughing until Amara gets abducted. This is a part that if you're someone who has had to deal with trauma, you've experienced grape, SA, if you're someone who doesn't do well, and this is especially important and trigger warning, you're gonna want to make sure that you skip over pages. It actually begins on page 97, where it says, and so began the screams. Skip all of that until you reach 100, page 100, and it says there was a little spider on the floor. That whole part goes into detail what happens to her. There is torture, there is a grape scene. It goes into detail, and if you're someone who has experienced that or you're uncomfortable with that, you do not need to read that. Take care of yourself, take care of your mental health. It's okay if you skip that part. You don't need to torture yourself, and it doesn't add anything to the plot. It's just something that was added into the story that you do not need to read. You're not missing anything. They end up finding her. A couple of days after her abduction, they end up finding her. They take her to the hospital, but she does end up losing her voice. She now speaks with a whisper. People are visiting her in the hospital. You have Ben, who feels horrible because the whole thing happened in front of her. And even though he was knocked out and couldn't do anything about it, he still feels horrible. You even have Tristan, who doesn't talk, visiting her. And there's a reason for that. There's a special bond that forms between Amara and Tristan, like a brother-sister type bond, not like the way how Dante and Amara has. And then Dante comes and visits her. He tells her, we took care of them. We found all the people that were involved. He makes a promise to her that she's not only gonna walk through life, she's gonna dance through it. That was my favorite part when I read that. I was like, ooh. Then he starts visiting her on the regular. He tells his dad, yeah, I'm just keeping tabs on them. Yeah, I'm just keeping tabs on her and her mom. That's why I'm always visiting. But in reality, he's always visiting because he wants to see her. And he does little cute things like taking her outside, or he'll go watch movies at her place. They'll just talk about books she's reading. He's showing that he's there for her. And they're just growing closer together. They're growing close to each other. When you grow close like that, it's hard for people not to notice. And his dad noticed that they were getting close. Dante Maroni's dad gave Amara ultimatum, like, you either leave my compound, go somewhere where I pay for your college, or I'm gonna go after your mother. What? So she ends up telling Dante, thinking that he might do something, but he ends up breaking things off with her. She ends up going away, she goes to college, and then we are at the point of where things left off in The Predator. At the end of The Predator, this is going to be a little spoiler. At the end of The Predator, she ends up leaving, but for good reason. So now Dante is trying to find her and locate her and see where she went off to and bring her back home. This book, I mean, it was so good, so romantic. Dante is the romantic out of all the guys. Like, he can't do no wrong. He just knows how to romance a girl. Not a girl, I shouldn't say that. He just knows how to romance his woman. Because he's only going to do that for his woman. He's only going to do it for Amara. No other female is going to get that out of him. No other female has gotten that out of him. It does end in a happily ever after. Their story does end in this book. But they do make appearances in all the other books. Now, in The Emperor, I did mention that Amara left, and for good reason. And where she went and sought refuge was in a place called Los Fortes. And the head honcho, the man who knows the land, and it's his city, and ain't nothing going down without him knowing, his name is Alpha. We get an introduction of him in The Emperor. The Finisher, which is the 4th book in the Darkverse series, Alpha gets his own story too, with Z. Alpha's a fighter. All right, he's got a security business that he runs, super rich. He likes to fight underground whenever he gets the chance. One particular night, one of his fights, out of nowhere, this woman runs up to him and just kisses him. What you don't know is on the flip side, that same night at that same fight, Z just so happened to walk in to find her man cheating on her. He hears the announcement of the Finisher. He's fighting tonight. And she's like, Alpha? It can't be. It's not my Alpha. And she looks, true enough, in all his glorious form, it's her Alpha. They have history. They dated when they were younger. When she finally sees that it's her Alpha, she can't help herself and go up to him and kiss him. The sad part in all this is that he doesn't remember her, doesn't know her, doesn't remember her, but she remembers him. In order for her to get the inheritance of her grandmother, she needs to get married before she turns a certain age, which is in a week. When she sees that her Alpha is still here, but she sees that he doesn't remember her, so when she sees that it's her Alpha, she presents a proposal to him in an effort to gain her grandmother's inheritance. For him, he's thinking, oh yeah, this is just to help her out in order for her to gain her grandmother's inheritance. But she's using that as a disguise for her to have him fall in love with her all over again. He agrees to it, but his stipulation and condition is that this only lasts for 6 months, and then it gets annulled. During this time, they don't play, just the tip. No horizontal dancing, no anything like that. This is just a business proposal, and that's it. And she's like, whatever you say, I'll go along with it. Because that girl is on a mission. She does little things. She's flirting with him. He's just not taking the bait. When you find the reason why, and it does involve the last experience he had, let's just say that person ended up in the hospital with a broken hip, she's going to make him miserable until he caves in. Now, I will say, this one is about second chance. It does have amnesia. There is trigger warnings. Heed your trigger warnings. A character does get unalived. Not a main character, but a side character, a very important character, gets unalived. If you remember when Tristan and Morana in their books were working together to try to uncover stolen codes, but really they started discovering missing children and trying to solve that mystery, that continues throughout this book. This is the overall plot of the series, is trying to solve the mystery of the missing girls and trying to find out who's the syndicate and take them down. Each book, though, tells the story of each couple. Each couple has their own little plot and how they're tied into this overall plot. So that's what I love about the Darkverse series. I will say in the finisher, you're gonna cry. I cried so hard the first time I read this. I've read this series so many times, but every single time, this one is the gut-wrenching part of the whole series, the finisher, and the way how it ends. They don't get their happily ever after. They get their happily ever after in the Syndicator, which, again, I'm gonna address. But it's still something you need to read in order for you to get the overall plot of the whole series. Our final couple is in the Annihilator. Remember how I said at the beginning of the Predator and the Reaper how there's someone working in the shadows, there's someone who is kind of watching them, there may be two people. Well, by this point, it's down to one person who's in the shadows lurking, feeding them clues as to what the Syndicate is all about and these missing girls. We're gonna call him Shadowman. Shadowman knows the biggest secret in this whole series. He is involved heavily. He knows something that you don't know. He's not the guy you want to get on his bad side. And the Syndicate got on his bad side. He's been keeping an eye on a S worker who has been sold over and over and over again. But every time she gets a buyer for the night, they end up getting pew-pewed or unalived. He's not allowing anyone to touch her. He's already staked his claim on her. Very fascinated with her. Shadowman isn't someone who is fluffy or someone filled with emotion. He just does what he thinks is logical, makes the most sense. But it's funny because when it comes to her, he moves differently. He's been working behind the scenes as well as looking out for her. And he's always coming through and promising her that he's gonna take her away from all of this and he's gonna get her out of it. Until one night, she just can't take it anymore. This is definitely where you need to heed your trigger warnings. And so there is mentioning of rugging our female main character. It does start on page 91 through 93. So there is SA on page 94, 95. Our female main character does try to unalive herself. That starts on page 131 to 134. And so it's pretty dark. Besides the Emperor, I think the Emperor, it gets pretty dark because it gives graphic detail of what happens to Amara. But in this, we do touch on unaliving, SA, raping, being rugged. So definitely check your trigger warnings. You don't have to read those pages. They don't add to the plot. You're not missing anything. So if it's something that you can't handle, it's not good for your mental health, don't force yourself. Shadowman, he does end up saving her and getting her out of there. And I'm gonna end it right here because the plot twist in all of this is who our female main character is. And that is one of the biggest plot twists out of all of this, the main plot twist, which brings us to the Syndicator, the last book in the whole series. I have gushed so much about books 1 through 5, and I loved each book because of the emotions. It's even though it's in third person point of view, you feel the emotions. It's pretty, I thought it was pretty well written. And I was always like, oh, you gotta read the Darkverse series, this, the Darkverse series, that. I reread it over and over again. I've got the physical copies, I've got the audiobooks, and I got the ebooks just in case, We come to the Syndicator, which is the last book in the series. And it's basically the last book where all the couples come together to take down the Syndicate, as well as the missing girls. I'm just gonna give you my honest opinion on that book. I'm not gonna do a recap on it because, number one, I've only read it once and I couldn't even bring myself to reread it again. I felt like I was reading a rough draft of the book. I felt no emotions. Like, the last book is very different from the first 5. I'm not saying it was bad. I'm not going to discourage you from not reading it, but I'm also not saying it was good. In my opinion, for such a great run and a great start to a series, the ending of it for me was disappointing. It was not what I expected. The anticipated reunion between 2 characters, it was lacking. I would have loved to see more of their reunion and how that was. I also would have loved to see her reunion with someone else. We didn't get that till the very end. All right, this is going to be spoilers, so you might want to go ahead and go forward on this. But I didn't see the reason of having Morana injured with an injury out of nowhere, and Tristan never noticed. Like, this is a man who noticed when this girl was breathing out of her left nostril when she normally breathes out of her right, okay? The injury didn't add to the plot. I didn't see the reason for it. Another thing that I was so upset over and disappointed in was Vin's death. Yes, Vin dies. He just poofs. Zafir and Alpha are just mentioned at this point. They're just like asterisks. I feel like they were just asterisks in the story. We got more of Dante and Amara, but even Amara was just like, yeah, I'm a career woman and I'm a mom and this and that. The whole thing with Zafir and Alpha was a big one. And the way how they handled that plot twist, I don't even think it was that twisted, honestly. I was like, wow, like really that happened? I would have liked to see more information on that. How was this character involved in the syndicate? I would have liked to see a reveal of who the syndicate or the top dog was, but we'll never know that. Just like with Vin, we don't know what his final moments were like. We don't know what happened. We don't know what was going on. It just ends. It felt rushed, and we were being told a lot of things that were happening, but we weren't able to feel anything. I feel like this book lacked emotions as opposed to the other 5 books. Disappointed in the ending, but that is not to discourage you from reading it. I implore you and welcome you to read it. It's disappointing as someone who has discovered this series at a really rough period in my life, and it gave me the gift of being able to kind of take my mind off of things, and for me to see it end the way it did, it's just disappointing. So that's why you don't see me having a physical book of it. I do have the ebook that I had pre-ordered. I will try to read it again, maybe not right now. All her books in this series are in third person point of view, but if you can get past that, I promise you it's a good series to get into. Now, does this mean that I'm just over RuNyx and I'm over with her work? No. She actually just came out with Enigma in April. It came out April 29th, I believe. And I'm actually just holding off on reading that because I kind of want to read that during spooky season. I think it'll be a good read for spooky season. A lot of people say that if you enjoyed Gothicana, which I did, if you haven't seen, I actually did a reading vlog on that, which you can check out. I really enjoyed Gothicana. A lot of people say that if you enjoyed Gothicana, then you're going to enjoy Enigma. So I'm looking forward to that. That is my review and recap of the Darkverse series. If you've read the books, tell me what is your favorite book or your favorite scene, your favorite quote in the comments section. If you enjoyed this video, like, share, and also comment any books that you think are similar to the Darkverse series, because I like books like that. Not too dark. I'm not talking Haunting Adeline. I read that. Anything similar to that, I'm open to. Subscribe to my channel so you can get the latest reviews and the latest videos. Until next time, happy reading.